Welcome back. So in this lesson, we're going to do some hands-on and create a VPC peering connection. And this is what we're going to do. So we've already got two accounts. We've got our management account, which is the one with this cider block on the left here, and then our production account, which is our account with this cider block on the right. The VPCs are also in different regions. So the VPC on the left here is in US East North Virginia, and the VPC on the right here is in US East Ohio. So these are two different regions and two different accounts. Now what we need to do is create the peering connection, and for that we're going to need to know a couple of bits of information. We need the account ID for each account, and we need to know the region. So we already know the region, and we just need to jot down the account IDs. Next, we're going to launch a couple of EC2 instances into a public subnet from each VPC. We need to update our route table to make sure that we can route. So we'll add in the peering ID and the destination cider block. So the destination cider block is the cider block for the other VPC, which means any traffic going to that cider block will go via the peering connection. And then lastly, we set up our security groups to allow the ICMP protocol so that we can send a ping between these instances and check that it all works. So that's it. Let's go over and start building this out. Now, back in the management console, I'm still logged into my production account. So you can see I've used the switch roles to go to my production account. If I click on VPCs and just select my VPC, I can find my account ID here. There's lots of places you can find this, but this is one place you can find this. So I'm just going to copy the account ID. So once you've copied that, I would paste that somewhere, because the other thing we're going to need is the VPC ID. So you're going to need these two pieces of information. So copy the owner ID, that's the account ID, and the VPC ID somewhere, so that you can then copy it and paste it into the console when we create the VPC peering connection. And then another thing I want to do while I'm on this account is open up EC2. So I'm going to open that in a separate window, and I'm going to launch an instance. So that's going to start booting while we set up our connection. Let's launch instance, choose Linux 2 AMI, T2 micro, choose our custom VPC. It can be in any one of these public subnets. And then let's just go through, click through the security groups, make sure we select our web access security group, and make sure you've got a security group here with SSH open, port 22 from any IP address, any IPv4 address. And now let's just go and launch. Now I already have a key pair in this region. If you don't, just create a key pair. Let's launch instances. So that's great. Our instance is launching. Now there's one thing I want you to note down, which is the private IP address of this instance, because we're going to launch an instance in our other account and our other VPC, and then we're going to try and ping this instance using its private IP address. So just note that down, and then let's go and switch back to the management account. So I just click on this box and go back to Neil, and that's my main account. So back in the main account, don't forget to switch regions. We should be back in US East North Virginia. Once you're back in the management account, don't forget to switch back to US East North Virginia, where we have our custom VPC. Once we're here, let's create a peering connection. Choose create peering connection. We'll call this peer with prod account. We select the local VPC to peer with. So we want to peer this with our custom VPC. And then we want to choose another account. We're going to paste in the account ID. We're going to choose another region. And this time it's going to be US East 2, so Ohio. And then we need to put in the VPC ID of the VPC in the other region. So let's paste that one in and then create the peering connection. Now it tells us that the owner of the other VPC must accept the peering connection. And before we switch back over there, let's now go to EC2 in this account, and we're going to set up our EC2 instance. So again, we're going to launch an EC2 instance, choose Linux 2 AMI, T2 micro, choose our custom VPC. We need to make sure it's in a public subnet. I'm going to put it in public 1A. And then let's just go through and check the security group setup. We're going to put it into web access, and then let's just launch that instance. Great, so that's all set up. Now let's just head back to the VPC management console, and we're going to switch accounts over to the second account. Back in our production account, I'm going to switch back to US East 2. We're going to choose peering connections, and we can see that there's a peering connection here. So what we can do with this is accept the request, and that's been accepted now. So that's it, our peering connection is now set up. So the other things we need to do, we've got to set up our route tables, and we've got to set up our security groups before we're going to be able to test the connectivity by using ping. So let's first go to route tables, and what we're going to need is we're going to need this peering connection ID. So let's just copy it from here. Let's go to route tables, choose the route table for the custom VPC, edit routes, add route, and in this case we want to put the route to 10.00.0/16, and that's going to go to the peering connection. In fact, you can just choose the peering connection here. We didn't need the ID. So we just select that and then save routes. That's great. Now, the other thing we need to do is just go to security groups. We're going to go to the web access security group, edit inbound rules, add a rule, and this is going to be ICMP v4 that we're going to allow from, and we're going to specify the CIDR block. So we're going to put 10.0.0.0/16. So that will allow the ping requests to come in from the instance in the other VPC. So let's save those rules, and that's great. So that's that side of the connection set up. Let's go back to our main account. Make sure you're in the correct region, and you should see the active peering connection. So let's now set up the route table. So we need to select the route table for the custom VPC, edit routes, add route, and again this is going to be 10.1.0.0/16 because that's the remote range. Choose the peering connection, and then let's save that route. And then lastly, let's go to security groups, choose our web access security group, go to inbound rules, edit inbound rules, and we're going to add an ICMP v4 rule, which allows traffic to come from 10.1.0.0/16, so the remote range. And then let's save that rule. So that's it. That should now allow connectivity both ways from our EC2 instances. So what we can do is go over to EC2, connect into the IP of our EC2 instance in this account, and then let's try and ping the remote instance. So let's copy this public IP address and then log into this instance. I've logged into the instance, so I'm on the instance in the management account in US East North Virginia. That's got the IP address, the private IP address of 10.0.8.26. So now what I want to do is I need to ping the address of the remote computer, which is 10.1.29.247, and then that's ping that instance, and I get a response. So that's great. That means that we have the connectivity using private IP addresses between VPCs in different accounts and across different regions. Now, if you want to, you can connect into the other instance and check that you get pinged the other way, but it should definitely work. This is obviously pinging and getting the response coming back, so we know that the IP connectivity is there. So as long as you've set up the security groups properly, then it will work in both directions. So I hope that all worked for you. We are finished for this lesson, and all I want to do is go and terminate the instance in the production account. So you know how to terminate instances and switch accounts. So go over to your production account and terminate the instance there. Now we can leave the instance running in the primary account. That is something we're going to use in another lesson.